Hi, as you can see, I've logged back into my console on my ESXi server. So the next thing we want to do is let's go and install a Linux VM. So click Virtual Machines, click Create Virtual Machine, click Next. I'm just going to call my Linux version Mint because I've got Linux Mint. I'm going to select Linux. From the OS version, I'm going to drop down and I'm going to select Linux Other 64-bit. Click Next. I'm going to select my data store, click Next. I'm then going to give it some more hard drive space. I'll make that say 14 gig, and I'll give it 4 gigs of RAM. I'm going to go to the DVD host device, click on that, select the data store ISO file, click ISOs, select Linux Mint, click Select, click Next, and click Finish. This will go and prep that Linux VM for us. So once we've got our Linux VM ready to go, click the play button, and I'm just going to click in here and I'm going to go ahead and install Linux on this VM for us. I'm going to go ahead and press enter to start Linux Mint. This is going to go away and it's going to fire up Linux Mint in a portable version. Most Linux versions do this, and then of course if you like the version of Linux you want, you can go ahead and install the full version straight onto the hard drive, and that's what we're going to do. We can install the version straight into VMware ESXi so that we can add software and remove software and customize it to suit our needs, because that's what you would want to do in the real world anyway. Again, I'm going to go ahead and click on the CD here that says install Linux Mint. That will fire up that installation for us. So we'll just give it a second to kick in. And as you can see, that little timer is spinning there. So we're going to go ahead and start the installation on this physical machine. I'm going to accept my language as English and click Continue. I'm going to accept the different regions of English, so I can come down here and I can select whatever English version I want. So I'm going to leave it at the same. I'm just going to leave it at the default and click Continue. I'm going to click Continue because we're not worried about codecs or installing any codecs at the moment, because all we want to do is we want to install our Linux version and get our Linux up and running in our VMware environment. We can always later come back and install codecs and other things that we want. So again, this is just getting us up and running with the base version of Linux Mint. And Linux Mint is a great version for those that are wanting to learn how to drive Linux. It's very familiar. It's got like a Windows look and feel, so it will kind of help you learn as you start to learn more about Linux. If you've worked with Windows, they've tried to make the similarities very similar. So it is very popular, and it's also got a very lightweight footprint as well. So we'll just wait for this installation to carry on, and we'll give it a minute or two before we continue the install. I'm going to go ahead and say install now. This is going to go away and partition the hard drive for me so that Linux has that SDA and extension partitions for us. So I'm going to go ahead and say continue, and I'm going to select my region. I'm in Auckland, so it's automatically selected Auckland for me. I'm going to go continue, and now this is going to scream away and do the installation. But before the installation starts, we need to give it a name. So I'll just call this ESXi Mint, and I'll give it a my virtual machine name as well. We can decide to give it another name if you want. I'll call it Mint. We'll call it Mint ESXi, and then in fact let's say Mint Linux because that name's already taken. And then of course if I can spell today, then I'll come down, I'll give it a password, give it a password again, and I'll just say log me in automatically. I'm not too concerned, and click continue. And this will now scream away and do the installation. Now, depending on your Linux version and depending on how much resources you have assigned to the particular Linux VM, it can take anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes to install. So that's just a heads up. Where with Linux Mint, it shouldn't take too long to install, probably 12 to maybe 13 or 14 minutes to get it done. So we'll just, through the power of video, we'll actually speed through this installation pretty quick. So we'll wait for the installation to continue and install, then we will carry on with the lab. And I'm going to go ahead and click restart and restart our Linux box. So we'll just wait for it to shut down and restart. Just going to move it over to the side a bit. And it's asking us now we need to remove the installation media. So let's go ahead and do that. If you navigate to your settings and we come down to edit settings, you can see here we've got stuff on the data store. So click host device and click save. Now go back to your VM and press enter, and that will now reboot that VM, and there's no ISO in there, so it should boot straight into the Linux operating system. And there you go, it's booted straight in. We could launch the system if we wanted to do bits and pieces. And of course, it's just a welcome screen. We can go ahead and close that down. And you can see it's very much like Windows, gives us that Windows look and feel. So for new users that want to use Linux, you can see it's really a nice desktop to learn with. And that's installing Linux Mint. So I'm going to go ahead and just disconnect from there. Again, if you wanted to connect to the console, guys, same thing. Just click on console at the top and say open console in a new window. And this will open up that console in another VM for us. And then we can go ahead and start using that and you know, exploring with it. So I'm going to go ahead and close that down because you don't want that console running. So that completes this part of the training session. In the next lab, we're going to learn about creating snapshots. So I'd like to thank you for viewing and look forward to seeing you in the next video.